Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Family Sedan channel. Here's a headline from You Today. Ripple ally asks court to impose modest civil penalty. And as an attorney within the XRP community points out, and I'll show you as we get into this video, he's saying this is the point where we're going to find out if the judge thinks effectively that the government can do no wrong. Is there are people in the United States, including judges, who just have this tendency to think, well, if the government has so-and-so position, they kind of lean towards them, probably just a bias, leaning towards the idea that they're probably in the right. And my gosh, in following what's been happening in the SEC v. Ripple case for 2 years now, I couldn't be more in the other direction than I am right now, I don't think. My gosh, I mean, I've always been somebody who is a responsible skeptic by nature. If somebody makes a small claim, I don't find it hard to believe. Somebody says they own a dog, I'll be like, okay, it'd be weird to lie about that if you're lying and okay, haha, you tricked me. But when you make a big-ass claim, especially if you get into conspiracy theory land, then I'm like, well, now you got a higher burden of proof in my estimation here. And so I'll be a skeptic on stuff like that. And I'll also be a skeptic of the truth coming out of government agencies at an increasingly higher level than I would have been 2 years ago. And not, again, 2 years ago, not that I was incredibly trustworthy, always coming with the starting position of that of a skeptic, because I think that's the most responsible place to start in life, just in a general sense, in most places anyway. But after all this, oh gosh, even more so. The SEC is absolutely disgusting. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a legal or financial background of any kind. I am not offering legal or financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, so into this first piece, and then I got some stuff about SBF I want to share with you. In its new court filing, cryptocurrency startup LBRY claims that the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission's request for remedies showed a complete disregard of facts regarding members from the company being able to cause future securities violations. LBRY has asked the court to reject the SEC's demand for an injunction and disgorgement with a more modest civil penalty instead. And so I'll pause and note that an injunction, it requires a party just basically to stop behaving in a specific way, to stop doing something specifically. So an injunction could require that LBRY not ever sell any LBC, any LBRY credits ever again. And that's what the SEC actually wants in this particular case. They want this injunction. And so that's what's being discussed there. And in terms of disgorgement, that's of course just, clawing back all of the alleged profits that LBRY would have made through the sale of LBC. Anyway, piece continues. In their filings, the defendants allege that the SEC is conflating LBRY and Odyssey, two distinct entities engaged in separate operations. Moreover, they argued that the $22 million disgorgement demanded by the SEC was not based on factual numbers regarding profits caused by violations committed by LBRY. And the commission claims that LBRY's offering was quote, an illegal, unregistered offering was a continuous effort conducted over more than 5 years, end quote. However, I would say, let me just pause there. Doesn't it kind of sound like the nonsense crap that's been stated about Ripple selling XRP? It's just this ongoing violation from the creation of XRP all the way out, even into 2022 and onward for infinity. That's what the SEC would have you believe, because what we know effectively what their position is. They just can't come out and say it. Their position is that the asset itself is a security, which is completely against decades and decades of case precedent. It's absolutely not, but that's how the SEC wants it to be. The asset itself is a security. Piece continues. However, due to the ambiguity of the law governing the registration of crypto assets, as well as the lack of the agency's clear guidance on this matter, LBRY asserts that it did not engage in deliberate or reckless conduct. Therefore, a decision to impose an injunction is unwarranted. LBRY has asked for only a modest first-tier civil penalty rather than injunctive relief and disgorgement. Yeah, so when we get to this phase in the SEC v. Ripple case, if things don't go well for Ripple, God, I really hope that doesn't happen. If we get to that point, is this judge, Judge Torres in the SEC v. Ripple case, would she actually prevent Ripple from selling XRP ever again in the United States? Because you know what would happen, even if such a thing happened, like Ripple's just out of here. They've been pretty damn clear. They're getting the hell out of the United States if things don't go well here. And that also means that every corridor on the planet that touches the United States, every payments corridor, will never use XRP. That would just be absurd. So the rest of the world will get to benefit, but because reasons, no corridor touching the United States. Completely ridiculous. So, especially as on-demand liquidity is increasingly adopted, but it is what it is, man. So let's just hope that doesn't happen. Shout out and credit to Attorney James K. Filan for sharing that legal document, which, by the way, Attorney Fred Rispoli responded to and wrote the following. The ruling on this motion will truly reveal the type of judge in the case. Clearly, I'll lean towards the Fed government jurist. Does he recognize the bad faith of the SEC here and adjust his stance, or cling to his precept that government can do no wrong? Well, good question, Attorney Rispoli. I don't know what he's going to do, but I've had the sense for some time that this judge, certainly a very intelligent individual, but he doesn't seem to want to rock the boat. He wants to do the least boat rocking possible. And so even if that means that he does kind of, just lean towards the side of the SEC a bit further than would be optimal or reasonable, that seems to be what he's doing here. I'll just say this. I'm so glad that this is not the judge in the SEC v. Ripple case. I'm so glad we have Judge Torres. And maybe we get a bad outcome and then we all are pissed off at her too. Fine. But just, even before we had this bad ruling in the LBRY case, I was still more optimistic about Judge Torres. I'm on the record having stated that. But Attorney Bill Morgan, member of the XRP community, shared this little snippet from the LBRY filing, which reads in part as, LBRY entered the cryptocurrency market during a time of great uncertainty concerning the regulatory landscape governing digital assets. Okay, so the judge in this case does seem to have acknowledged that, which is why Attorney Bill Morgan wrote the following. What may be promising is this statement in LBRY's reply about what the judge recognized in the status conference about there has been a great uncertainty in the regulatory landscape for cryptos in 2016. Makes you wonder why he so dismissively discounted LBRY's fair notice defense. Well, it makes you wonder. Fair enough to state. I think I know the answer. I'm raising my hand. Call me, Attorney Morgan. I think it's because, like I stated a moment ago, the judge does not want to rock the boat, unfortunately. And then XRP community member XRP Crypto Wolf wrote, I really hope the SEC isn't this annoying and petty after the XRP lawsuit concludes. Attorney Rispoli responded and said, I've always worried about this with respect to Ripple seeking to register and IPO immediately after beating the SEC, like breaking up with someone and asking for the best friend's number on your way out. That's about right. That's about right. Now, switching gears here, I wanted to share this with you. Here's a headline from New York Post. Sam Bankman-Fried met with Big Short writer Michael Lewis during house arrest. Now, Big Short is a fantastic movie. Here, I pulled it up on IMDb just for the sake of it. It's got a 7.8 out of 10, which is a very impressive score for a movie. You can find all sorts of television shows with scores up there, and I have a theory on that. I don't know if anybody notices, but if you have a movie that has about a 6.0 or a little higher, a little bit lower, that's a good score for a movie on IMDb. That's a horrible score for a shit. That's not the word I'm trying to say. A horrible score for like a sitcom or something like that. And my theory on that is that there's more of a dedicated audience for television shows, and they're more likely to get the score pushed up over time. Whereas with movies, in most instances, it's just a one-off instance. Usually there aren't sequels for most movies, and so it's harder for a movie which has less dedicated followers to have a higher score. That's my theory on this movie. So for a movie to have a 7.8, it's really impressive. If you haven't seen this movie, check it out. It's got Christian Bale, Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling, Brad Pitt. I haven't seen it in years, but what a great movie. So anyway, as stated here in the headline, the Big Short writer, that movie, Michael Lewis, has met with SBF, and it turns out he's actually been meeting with him for some time, even before all this went down. And it looks like they're going to be turning what has happened into a movie. And I'll just say, any profits that come from that, I certainly hope that they're taken from him and given to the victims of the FTX fallout. Piece reads as follows. Disgraced FTX boss Sam Bankman-Fried already appears to be turning his crypto saga into a blockbuster with the help of a top writer who penned Hollywood hit The Big Short. Currently holed up at his parents' home at Stanford University after being released on $250 million bail last week, following being slapped with federal charges of financial fraud and money laundering, Bankman-Fried was visited by best-selling author Michael Lewis. Sources exclusively told the Post Tuesday the Moneyball writer, another great movie, Lewis, spent several hours inside the residence just hours after Bankman-Fried had landed Friday, presumably talking about the latest twist in his crypto downfall, which has seen him go from a 30-year-old billionaire to facing up to 115 years in prison in a matter of weeks. And so, look, I'll just say this. Undoubtedly, this would make for a fantastically interesting movie. I'm just saying again, if Sam Bankman-Fried specifically is going to get any sort of monetary benefit, I think it should go directly to those that he scammed. And so I'd say let something like this move forward, of course. The creative type should be able to cover stuff like this, even though it's a complete travesty for those that were caught up in this. And also, again, this is something that was in the works prior to it being known that FTX is an outright Ponzi. So the story's obviously going to be a lot different now, but he was meeting with Michael Lewis prior to all of this. But it should be a movie. It definitely should. So that's kind of the latest. I just thought I'd mention as a little add-on to this video. Just kind of interesting stuff. Just to be honest, it is the biggest story in crypto in general right now. So happy to cover it, but my gosh, every time I think about this guy, it's just amazing that he did what he did, and he's out on bail, and he didn't actually have to put any damn money up on top of that. It's just, what a bail system, man. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon family, said Anne.